which has been delivered. In that case, we have something like this. Dr. Deepika discussed about that. The concept is FRC. Can you discuss on that? You told about that, yeah?
Sure, sir. So, the basis of NRP is to first of all establish and maintain the functional residual capacity. That is what is needed to provide a smooth transition from the fetal to the neonatal circulation. So this is called as open lung strategy, and all our NRP protocols are based upon maintaining the FRC. What is the child who has respiratory distress? He or she himself is trying to keep his lungs open, and that is when comes the role of the TP's resuscitator, where we have the capacity to provide CPAP or PEEP, so that the lungs are open and the child doesn't have to work.
Yeah, but how, which kind of oxygen has been delivered? Which kind of gas has been delivered to this device?
Yes, sir. So
still this will require blender, am I right?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So it is just a flow-driven device. If you provide 100% oxygen, it is just providing 100% FiO2 as it is flow. So the flow could be air, flow could be oxygen, or flow could be a blended air where you have the capacity to titrate the FiO2 based upon your blenders.
So in that case, as I said, periphery will this work or not? Or is it good for the babies or not?
So it is good for the babies. Even in the absence of the blender, if you have the air or oxygen supply using those tables, you can still provide good and accurate resuscitation to the babies in the peripheries.
But I don't have supply at all. I got cylinders with 100% oxygen. What shall I do?
So that's the problem. So if you still have the tubings, if you have an air cylinder, and you have an oxygen cylinder, using in a wiring connection, you can still use the TP's resuscitator, or you can use the Indian versions of the TP's resuscitator, where they draw the air from the ambient air.
So this is coming as a big innovation in the recent time. Maybe in last 1 year, this is just coming up. My friend Dr. Murki, the innovator, is sitting in front row, and we must congratulate him for this kind of innovation, which is fitting to the Indian condition. Why so? Because we understand that we do not have air supply at each places. For air supply, either you need to add jumbo cylinders, number one, or you need to have air compressors. And we know the reality, it is not going to be possible for each places. In that, how to blend the gas, or how to make sure that preterm baby doesn't get high oxygen supply. So this is a device where you are mixing, you have got embed air and blends with oxygen. Out there, air is being trapped as a visual venturi, and you got an oxygen flow attached to this device. What the device will do, it will monitor the FiO2 being delivered to the baby. So according to that, you can titrate oxygen flow, and the rest of the things are all right, isn't it? So this is where you can decide, you can categorically titrate how much of the oxygen is being given to the baby, and that is how the hyperoxia related problems can be avoided. Imagine a situation where you are going for the transport. In transport ambulances, we don't have air supply unless you got air cylinders, jumbo cylinders sitting in an ambulance, which is not that easy. How to get FiO2 in transport? How to get high flow nasal oxygen with titrated FiO2? These are the devices which are good for the transport, even in the restricted area, where at least someone is taking care of air as well as oxygen. So I'm not ambassador of this particular brand, but this is what is happening, and we should promote these kind of facilities which are good for the babies. So why PEEP, Mangala? Why do you want to use? We have discussed the PEEP. What is the difference between this self-inflating bag and this TP's resuscitator? Why you are talking about TP's resuscitator?
Yes, so the importance of keeping the lungs always open, because we know that when we are using a normal conventional ambu bag, we will be inflating the alveoli during inspiration, but they tend to collapse because of the lack of surfactant and immaturity. They tend to collapse at the end of expiration. So that's why we use this concept of PWP, positive and expiratory pressure, which is a uniform pressure that has to be delivered both during inspiration and expiration to keep the alveoli always open. So that's the main difference between the conventional ambu bags and the TPs, because the TPs is capable of delivering both PAP and PWP, and it can be made use of for delivering CPAP, which is going to be only PWP both during inspiration and expiration.
Deepika, do you want to elaborate on the sustained inflation versus TPs on this particular meta-analysis?
Sir, by definition, sustained inflation is any pressure that is provided for more than 5 seconds. There have been various trials.
Why do you need that? Because he said that keep the lung open, but do you want a simple TP resuscitator as a PEEP or FRC, or do you want to do something else? And why do you want to do that?
Sir, yes, sir. So people were trying, instead of the PPV, gives a sustained higher pressure for a longer time to keep that lung open. but most of the trials showed that there was increased mortality, and the current evidence or the current recommendation is not to use sustained inflation in the delivery room area, as there is no evidence to say that it improves acute or long-term outcomes in newborns.
So even though NRP has suggested somewhere about use of sustained inflation in small babies, till date the mandate is not to use that because they should increase incidence of IVH. Now we are running short of time, Dr. Mangala, and I want you to elaborate on the delirium CPAP. This is high frequency stuff happening in last decade. People talk about non-invasive respiration, non-invasive ventilation since 2001, first trial of coin by Dr. Koli Murli, and now the CPAP has come to delivery room. Is it worth offering them, and what are the advantages of offering CPAP in delivery room?
So the benefits of an earlier CPAP is well known. So when we say early, as you said rightly, as early as possible soon after birth. That's why this intervention has been recommended. Even now we find the CPAP in the NRP algorithm itself. So any preterm baby, after the stabilization, if any baby has been found to have respiratory distress, obviously CPAP is recommended in the NRP algorithm itself. Again, having said that, so the challenges are, the number one challenge is the maturity of the baby. There was a big concern about the very immature babies, especially those who are less than 28 weeks. We know that actually it is not that easy to practice non-invasive ventilation in these babies, and many of them may have poor respiratory drives warranting intubation. So there was a version, people thought that at least in those babies it's better to electively intubate them as they're very immature, 25 and 26 weeks. A lot of trials happen, I'm not going into the details. So but that issue settled for once. We know for sure that, so whatever be the gestation, if it is a viable baby, we need not go for, unless it is warranted by the NRP indications, just because the baby is preterm and having respiratory distress, we should not be intubating them. Some of them might fail. We will be starting them on non-invasive. So they may require intubation later, but still they say if we start this CPAP early in the delivery room, there is something like even a 50% decrease in the need for intubation later, which is a very big number. That means half of the babies are going to remain only on non-invasive. The rest of might fail. That doesn't mean that you have to intubate them early in the delivery room.
So there is enough evidence to make sure that if you keep your lung open, keep baby's lung open, you are all right. There is less need of intubation, there is less of surfactant, and there is very well proven in so many meta-analyses that has happened in last decade. Not only that, the big trial which came as a Vermont Oxford network trial, delivery room management trial, and there the CPAP was compared against surfactant. So what is your take on this? Should I offer, because I know how to do surfactant, I got money there, and parents are to do everything for the baby. Should I offer surfactant or should I offer CPAP on this baby?
Both are very effective and wonderful interventions which actually complement each other when talking about a baby with a very immature lung. But comparing these two, so first is CPAP always, next comes surfactant, only if necessary. That is the stand right now. Start with CPAP and surfactant later if necessary.
Say only if necessary. What is only if necessary?
So that is actually in a baby where an optimal non-invasive ventilation like a CPAP has been tried. Then we just go by the FiO2 requirements, which is a rough guide, which is the best guide available as of now. I won't say that is the best of what is available right now. So whenever if the FiO2 requirements on a baby who is a CPAP saying more than 5 centimeters of pressure is more than 30%, that becomes an indication to consider surfactant.
But then he's talking about a lot of software stuff. You're talking 30% FiO2 in the room, and we understand that FiO2 may not be possible in the room.
So that's why I can say obviously all these babies has to be delivered in centers where an NICU backup is available. So right now practically there is no need for having a surfactant in the delivery room. Stabilize the baby in the delivery room, start them on CPAP. Within half an hour to 1 hour, you should be able to move them to NICU. Assess the FiO2 in the NICU, then decide if it is more than 30, go for surfactant.
Very rightly said, because giving surfactant is not that easy in delivery room. Baby is quite sick, hypothermia to be taken care of. You may be alone in receiving those babies, fixing airway, making sure that your tip is right in place. Someone is scrubbed, getting ready for the surfactant, putting into baby's lung. It's easy to say, but it's difficult to practice. So at this stage, the take-home message would be, may not practice delivery room surfactant. Those who are intubated, those who are really recessing very bad, and where the labor is quite, NICU is quite away from the labor room, yes, you can stabilize the baby, first ABC and then surfactant. That is what is required, isn't it? Now, Dr. Deepika, what is bundling intervention? If you have to improve the outcome, which are the options that I have as a practice as a whole, like improving outcome and delivery, what will be your practice or what will be your message on that?
So it is always good to have institution-specific checklists and bundles, critical care bundles related to preterms, which always, it is always easy if you have a bundled checklist so that you are always ready with your equipment before the delivery, during the resuscitation and after the birth of the baby. It is good to have a practice where you are ready to attend that delivery so that your team is ready, where you have adequate personnel, adequate equipment, you're ready with all the procedures. And once you've stabilized the baby in the NICU during the golden hour, first the golden minute and then the golden hour, it is always good to go back and do a debriefing with your team so that you can improve the outcomes in the next delivery that you attend. Things that you missed, things that could have been done in a different manner.
But at least these are the important outcomes which we need to target for. Maintain temperature, making sure of hypoglycemia and making sure of hypoglycemia and feeding as early as possible. What about the whole improvement like antenatal, perinatal, postnatal?
Absolutely, sir. So we, just to summarize the today's panel discussion, we can categorize all these interventions that are intended to improve the neurodevelopmental outcomes of these preterm babies as antenatal, perinatal, and postnatal. Antenatal, first and foremost, would again be, in utero transfer, institutional delivery, antenatal corticosteroids. Wherever there is a suspicion for chorioamnionitis, which is now referred to as a triple I, in utero inflammation infection, should be treated with empirical antibiotics. Wherever appropriate, the placenta and appropriate culture should be sent at the time of delivery, magnesium sulfate. Perinatal again is institutional delivery, delayed cord clamping, and prevention of temperature instabilities in the newborn, whether it's hypothermia or hyperthermia. Postnatal, wherever there is suspicion of early onset sepsis, there was suspicion for triple I in the mother, the baby should be started on empirical antibiotics after sending the septic screen. Inotropes should be used very, very cautiously because we know that blood pressure variations are one of the most common risk factor for IVH, significant severe IVH in extreme preterm babies. CO2 fluctuations are other risk factors which increase the risk of IVH, and having a neutral head position. So all these again come under neurocritical care bundle, for which we really don't need to, imbibe checklists from other countries or other institutes. Rather, we should have monthly clinical audits or QI projects and make our own checklists for our own institutions because every institute is different.
Yeah, very nicely summarized. Thank you very much for elite panelists, Dr. Mangala, Dr. Deepika, and Dr. Amit Kaur. Again, I apologize for the go with your introductions. I was told that that will be done from them, but I apologize for that. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Should not apologize. Thank you, sir.